Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of our scalloped edge tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be sharing how to make bias binding. So bias binding is used for curves because it's cut on the bias, which makes it super flexible and super user-friendly to work around these curves. So it is a bit more tricky than regular binding, but don't worry, you've got this. I have faith in you. So let's get into the tutorial. Okay, to start out with our bias binding tutorial, I always start at this Quilter's Paradise website. It's really awesome because they do all the math for you, whether you are making regular binding or bias binding. So all you have to do is go down here, enter the width of fabric. I usually do 42, enter your width of the quilt in inches and the length, and then choose what size binding strip you want. So I always do 2.5, but feel free to put in whatever size you want. So then it gives you the calculations, the strips for your regular binding, which is super handy, or you can go down here and it will tell you exactly what to cut for your bias binding. So if you're doing the square size, you want to do 27 inches for this quilt, and if you're doing yardage from the bolt, it's 12 half yard. So we're going to go with the square size method. So I just cut this 27-inch square, and now I will show you how to make the bias binding. Okay, so here is my 27-inch square, and what I'm going to do first is fold it in half. Make sure you line it up really well, and then I'm just going to finger press that fold all the way across. Okay, once you give it a nice press, then you are going to cut on that line. Cut your square in half. Okay, now once you have your two sections, so now you're going to take this square, flip it over, and place it like this. So if your fabric is a print, you're going to make sure that they're right sides together. Okay, now that we have sewn it together, this is what it looks like. I'm sorry, this is so big for my camera. Anyway, it's just a very long rectangle. Anyway, so now what we're going to do is line up the bottom edge with my mat. Get it nice and straight. And then the rest of it straight. And now I like to do 2.5-inch binding strips, so I'm just going to measure that. 2.5. And then we are going to draw a line all the way across. And it doesn't matter, drawing this line doesn't matter because this is in our seam allowance, so it's not a big deal. Anyway, continue with that. Lining up the 2.5 inches. And I'm going to continue that all the way up my fabric piece. Okay, so when you get to the top, sometimes you'll have some leftover room. So I just marked it, and then you are going to cut it. And just cut it off. So now that you have that done, go ahead and flip it over, and you are going to line up the two edges. So if you have printed fabric, make sure that they are right sides together. Grab your pins, and then what you want to do is line them up so that where they intersect is 1/4 inch away. So I can kind of see through my fabric, so it's easier to place it. And then go ahead and pin it. So you're going to do this for all of the lines. And once you get them all done, you're going to go back to the start, and then this edge right there should intersect with that line, which it does. So that means we did it correctly, which is awesome. Go ahead and finish pinning. Now that I have all that pinned, I am going to sew a 1/4 inch on this seam right here and press it open, and I will meet you back. Okay, now that we have pressed that seam open, this is where it finally comes together. So now you are going to start on this edge and just start cutting on your line, and you just follow your line all the way around. Try and stay on the line. And then you'll just continue cutting all the way around until you get to the end, and I will meet you back here. I have just cut that whole roll, and now we have a ton of bias binding. So what you're going to do next is just what you do with regular quilt binding. You are going to fold them wrong sides together and iron it, give it a good press all the way down, and then your binding will be ready to go on a quilt. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and next tutorial I will be showing you how to attach your bias binding onto our scalloped border.